Join us as we share our experiences, strength, and hope. When the world says, give up, hope whispers, try it one more time.
What's going on, Recovery fam? And welcome back to Sharing Our Stories. My name is Slim with Nani, Farrell, Al Jalil from Tribe Recovery Homes. Tomas Hernandez could not be here today. Tomas, we hope you're doing well out there in Vegas, and send our love to you and your family. Yes, Farrell.
Yes.
Al Jalil. That's your new nickname.
It is. I guess it
after
will be
last
my new...
week.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
Nani, who
That's
was
fair.
once in her addiction, Farrell.
Yeah.
So she's Nani Farrell Al Jalil.
Okay.
You can any day that you're like, I see you thinking. Any day you want to come up with a new nickname for me.
Slim.
You go right ahead.
Oh, Slim.
Nani is not happy right now. How was the look like? Look, last week you mentioned it. This week you're back on the Farrell. I'm not Farrell. All right?
I'm not.
You are one of my favorite people on this planet. We don't spend enough
Slim.
time together. Last week when we were left, I was like, one of these times we have to go to dinner after we do this. We
know.
always
I
just
would love
leave,
that.
and I'm like, peace out, later, Nani.
Deuces.
You're one of my favorite people. So as I call
love
you
you,
Farrell,
Slim.
I apologize. My Farrell
It's a term
friend.
of endearment
It
now.
is.
Yeah.
It is.
We
I have
cute
so many
nicknames
terms
for
of
each-
endearment for you.
Well,
Some of
better
them
than
I
some of
can't
the other-
share.
I know. I was going to say it's better than some of the other ones.
Well, I
We've
want,
made
I
it
want
through.
everybody who watches this program to spend some time with us someday, so you can see the things that we won't talk about.
Yeah, on the air.
When we're doing this show. So no, and the reason why I call her Farrell is Nani was so honest when she was talking about her addiction, and every time she talks about it with anybody, and she used the word to describe herself in her addiction as feral.
Yeah.
And I had never heard that
It's true.
word used by anybody, especially a woman, when it comes to describing their addiction. And I just had this rabid wild cat with foam at the mouth and long nails clawing,
Dang,
going, "Give me a
Slim.
fix, give me a fix." And that's what I pictured. And I was
Wow.
like, there's nothing that nails addiction more than feral.
Yeah, like a feral cat.
Like yes.
Yes. Just running,
And so, girl, I
running
love
the
you.
streets.
I
Yes.
love you, and thank you for using that word.
I
And
guess.
putting it in my vocabulary. So we always talk about like, how are we gonna start the program? We got to do some small talk. And Nani's like, yeah, go for it. She's never expecting things like, hey, you're gonna call me Farrell to start this one off.
Nope.
My apologies. This program today, as always, is all about addiction and recovery. We share stories of what it's like to suffer in our addiction and to let you know that we can make it in our recovery, and that yes, we do
Yes.
recover. And there are endless ways to recover. There is not one way that is the only way to do it. So we bring in somebody each week to talk about their recovery. And this week I call it, this is Women's History Month.
It is Women's History Month,
So it's
actually.
Women's
Yeah, I did know that.
Recovery Day right
Yeah,
now,
I like
right
that.
here.
We
And
dig
you
it.
brought your good friend,
I did.
right? And Laura, her name is Lori.
Lori.
So since she's also in recovery, and I said it's Women's Recovery Day, Lori, come sit.
All
Come
right.
sit. Come sit. Will she fit in the camera? Do I have to move over? Dan?
Let's get her
I
in
will.
here.
I'll move her over. Dan's
Yeah.
like, you
Dan's
totally.
like, we didn't expect any
Dan,
of this.
our engineer just jumped
All
up. He is
right.
now moving cameras. He's like,
Cameras are
he's
moving
like,
around.
what the hell did you just do, Slim?
Slim,
So-
we like this.
But I mean,
Slim.
so this is Women's Recovery Week, and my name is Slim, and I'm here with all of my ladies. No, but you're also in recovery, and Laura is our guest. Laura Perez, sitting next to me. She works for Empowerment and LDR,
Yes.
and you brought your good friend Lori.
Yes.
Who is in recovery, and of course Nani. So now it's women's recovery. Now this is officially women's recovery meeting with a man sitting in.
Yes.
Okay. So Nani,
Love
I'm
it.
gonna pass it on to you for the big introduction for Laura,
Yeah.
because it's Women's Recovery Day.
Laura, welcome to Sharing Our Stories. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show today.
Thank
we
you
are
for
very
having me.
excited to have you. So tell us about your story.
Well, I'm Laura Perez. I'm from Denver. Grew up here. Where do I start? I mean, I grew up in a house where addiction and crime and it was the norm, you know. I grew up watching the people that were supposed to encourage me and guide me, just do their thing, you know. I'm the oldest granddaughter out of 25 grandkids.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
cow. 25.
Do you guys get together in the holidays? Like, is
Oh,
there a
we
big-
all lived in one house.
No
Yes.
way.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's really cool.
And being
That's a
the
lot.
oldest, I was made responsible for everybody.
Yeah.
And so from a young age, I've always taken care of everybody.
Wow.
And so my addiction started when I was, the first time I tried any kind of drug, I was maybe about 8.
Okay.
The life that my mom led, you know, she did her thing, and she had large quantities, and my brother found her stash in the Kirby vacuum. You remember the old Kirby
Oh,
vacuums?
yeah, I remember those
with the
stand-up
zip up
vacuums. Yep.
bag, and he's like, "This is what mom does," you know.
Yeah.
And that was my first try of coke
Mm-hmm.
at that age, and it was just normal, you know. Like, there wasn't any, I don't know, like, it was normal, you know. There wasn't, the only time that there was like some kind of different environment is when I would go with my grandmother, with both of my grandmothers, either my paternal or my maternal, and that's when I was allowed to be a kid, you know. But with my mom, I was the mom. She worked and she did her thing, but, you know, we never wanted for anything material, but we wanted our mom, you know. So when I was 12 or 13, I met my kids' dad, and I was with that guy for 20-something years. And it was just crazy, toxic relationship. And throughout all of that time, I was using, you know, and I would justify it like, well, I'm at home with my kids, like, but what's worse, right? Like, leaving them or being there with them, you know. And it was just normal. Like, I didn't see anything wrong with anything that I was doing, because I compared my life to my mom, and so I wasn't like her, so I'm better than her, you know. But yeah, going to prison was what saved my life, really, because I learned so much about myself, because for all my life I had been, you know, like I said, made responsible for everybody else. I'd be taking care of little cousins while everybody's partying, you know, and I could always remember, like, when something would happen to one of them, they'd be like, it would be my fault, you know, like, where the fuck are their parents at? You know. But I don't know, just now, fast forward, you know, to now, I'm really grateful for the life that I have. It's taken some time to get where I'm at. I went to prison in 2015, and
What got you there?
what got me there? I was a booster. I don't know. Do you know what a booster is?
Stealing cars?
No.
Then I do not.
I would steal, I would take from the stores,
Okay.
high-priced items. I got caught with,
And you were gathering all your items to sell for your habit.
no, not for my
No.
habit. That's how I took care of my family.
For everything.
Yeah.
It's for
Because
everything.
throughout my life, you know, my kids' dad would go to prison. I would be stuck with the kids, having to figure out how to take care of them because he was the sole provider. And somebody came along in my life that I knew and was like, I'm going to show you how to hustle, girl. Why you sitting here broke, you know? And took me to the stores and showed me what to do, and after that it was a wrap. Like I couldn't stop. It
Off to
was
the
an
races.
addiction. It was, not only did I have my addiction to cocaine, but now I have this addiction to, I could walk in the store and walk out with anything I wanted whenever I wanted.
It became fast money.
Fast
Yep.
money.
Just last night.
And my kids weren't without. You know, they were only kids in the projects with
Good stuff.
good stuff and closet full of clothes with tags on them. And
So you feel
You
like
know?
you're doing it right.
Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
when it's
You're
all
taking
around
care
you,
of your kids, yeah.
you know, and in the life of crime and hustling is all that was ever around me. So it's a come up, you know. And everybody was eating, you know, everybody had clothes, everybody in my family, you know. I always made sure that I fed the house, I paid the house, you know. And just always, I justified it by, I didn't steal from people, I didn't take from my family, I wasn't doing other things that other people were doing. So I'm better than them, right? Isn't it funny? Like we always think that because I don't do what you do, or, you know, I just snort and you smoke. So
So I'm not as bad.
I'm not as bad, you know. That was like the insanity of it, was that I knew that it was wrong, but it was getting me to where I needed to be. It was paying not only for my habit, it was
It was taking care of
taking
your
care
family.
of everything,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, you already said that you are a family-based woman. You come from so many you have so many, you know, fellow grand cousins, yeah, that, you know, you're family-based. So your motivation there isn't just getting high. It's, hey, I want to take care of my family.
Yeah.
And taking care of my family, when you're succeeding at that, you never feel like there's anything wrong at it. You got to do what you got to do, is what you say, right?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can justify it too, because you're saying, well, I'm taken from corporate.
And
Robin
that's how I
Hood.
justified
America,
it.
right?
Robin
It's not
Hood.
small
That's
mom
how
and
I
pops,
justified
right?
it. That's
Yeah.
how I justified it, because, well, fuck, you know, like, they have insurance, right?
All those things.
They're gonna get it back.
They're covered.
Can
They're
minimize
covered,
it.
you
Yeah.
know.
Justify and minimize. And,
Yeah.
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 And you know, when I'm gonna rewind a little bit. When I was about in 7th grade is when I started selling dope.
Okay.
You know, a certain person in my life had already had a drug case, and who better to hold their dope than a kid? You know, they ain't gonna check them. They ain't gonna. So here I was going to school. After school, here's my dope. Go sell it. You know, and so that's all I knew. Like, that's my life, was hustling. You know, and when I got pregnant when I was 16 with my oldest son, dropped out of high school, and I was working at McDonald's, and I could remember like thinking to myself, I gotta get us out of here, you know, gotta get us out of here. And so I started selling, you know, dirt weed and just doing anything to make money, you know, and ended up having another son in another relationship, and ended up just being in this cycle of abuse, you know, and stood with that person until the boyfriend that I met when I was 12 got out of prison. And then I left my husband to go back to him. The worst mistake ever. You know, and it was like when I went to prison and I finally like found myself and understood that like I was broken, that I was trying to fill a void that I couldn't fill because it was, I had to heal that little girl that never had that love,
Yeah.
And so those relationships, one of them, he almost took my life, and now I could look back at it and reflect and see like what was wrong, what I needed. And so I try to instill in my daughter that, she doesn't need to depend on a man, because she's 13, and I'm just so glad she's nothing like I was, but all those life experiences that I went through, I mean, if I go through like my whole life, we'd be sitting here for days, but I'm just really grateful for where I'm at now. Prison, like I said, it saved my life. It took me away from my kids. Those 5 years that I did, I got out and I relapsed. One of my little cousins had got murdered the next day after I got out. Like, I was at the halfway house, I got a phone call, or no, I used the phone to call home when I was able to, after, you go on a hold and they let you use the phone. And I called home, and my aunt was like, have you talked to anybody? And I'm like, no, like, what's going on, And she told me my little cousin was murdered the night before. I lost it, because he was like my kid. I grew up raising them. And so, like, I was a kid raising kids, and so couldn't handle death, couldn't handle the emotions that came with loss. And I bounced. I bounced from the halfway house and got caught up and went back to prison, smoked out, and I was sitting and I could remember, like, when I finally realized that, like, something's got to change, something's got to give. I was in my cell on my bunk, and I could hear this lady out in the pod, and she's mad, and she's going off on the phone, and she's like, my kids won't answer, because somebody asked her, like, what's wrong, She's like, my kids won't answer. This is like, she goes into her story, and she's her 6th time back in prison, and this time she's back, and she had her leg amputated because she was out on the streets, just, doing the most, not taking care of herself. And I'm listening to her story, listening to her, and I just had this thought, like, is that what you want?
Yeah.
Is that what you want for your life?
Right.
See, because before I got out of prison the first time, I fought with the director of TC to let me put my papers into the halfway house. She's like, no, you're not ready for it. You need to graduate. You're not ready. Because while I was in TC, I was selling pills. I was selling pills to all the girls. I was still doing the most. Still hustling.
Still hustling.
Yeah. I was selling them glue, selling them,
figuring it out.
Pins, selling stuff to general population that they couldn't get, that we could get because we're in treatment. And I sit here and I think now, and it was for stamps, for stamps, for coffee, because nobody was taking care of me. I didn't have that family support out here. And so, I was still hustling in there. So when I went back, I had to go and redeem myself with the director of TC and ask her to let me back in. And she's like, why should I? Why should I? You're not ready. You're not ready for change. You're not ready to put in the work that it takes. She's like, stay in GP for a while and we'll think about it. And I talked to one of the coordinators, the senior coordinators in the program. And she's like, she's testing you. She wants to see what you're about. She's gonna see if you're going back to mental health, to get back on pills. She wants to see what you're doing
And your level of acceptance.
Yep.
Yep.
And so I busted my ass to get into whatever programming they had, to get a job within the prison. You know, I got in for my GED, and like I started, and I would go to every house meeting. And then finally, about 3 months later, she was like, I got room. Somebody graduated, I got room. Let me back in. And just my mindset was different. You know, the first time I was in prison, I was okay with being there. You know, because my ex and my mother-in-law, she kept money on my books. He kept money on my books until he found somebody else and went on his way. You know, he, throughout that sentence, the first sentence, he left my kids. And I didn't know this. I didn't know where my kids were for 6 months. I thought my kids were with their dad. I thought he had our house. I thought everything was cool, you know? And then finally I got through to my mother-in-law on the phone, and she told me, I can't lie to you anymore. Like, he's with somebody else. And I'm like, well, where's the kids? She's like, I have the kids. I've had the kids. And I can't do this anymore. I'm sick. I need you to ask your mom or somebody in your family to take them. And so there I was, trying to figure out from inside
What to do.
who's going to take my babies, you know? And
I'm wishing very bad things on this man. Just saying. Sorry.
yeah. And so it was just that first sentence, I was cool, you know, like I was putting myself back in prison before I even walked out. I was telling my Sally, yeah, when I get out, I'm going to make sure that, you know, I do this and that. I'm going to work, and I'm going to put money away for my just in case fund. And she's like, your just in case fund? What's that? I was like, just in case I come back.
Yeah.
I ain't going to be hungry like this no more. And she was like, why would you say that? Do you know how dumb you sound right now? You know, but I did it because I didn't see any other way out. I didn't see any other way other than what was in front of me, other than what I thought was normal, you know? So.
That your path just leads back to prison is what you were thinking.
Yep. Because, see, I'm the middle child. I have an older brother, and he started doing time when he was 12, and he's on his way back to prison right now. And you know, that's all I ever knew, you know. And my mom had been to jail, and that's when all my problems started, is when she went to jail. You know, because here I am now at the mercy of my grandma or whoever's going to take me in. And that's when I started like running away and just doing whatever as a child. I look at my kids now, the ones that are the age, like I have 8 kids. So I have 3 adult sons. I have 3 teenagers. I have a 8-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. And so they're at every phase of their, you know, age groups. I'm like, damn, I remember when I was that age. And I didn't have the a positive role model, you know, other than my grandmother's, you know. And one of them, she had went to church for like ever, all my life, and I just thought church was boring. So I didn't want to follow those footsteps,
Yeah.
But so yeah, I ended up getting out of prison. I did TC, graduated, and I had to so the second time that I went back to prison, is after I left the halfway house, and I was on the run for about 3 or 4 months. And I went back to my kids' dad in that time. I went back to him thinking all he needed was me and the kids, and he would get it together, and we would be a family, and, all the fairy tale love story. And it was just worse, because by that time we had so much animosity towards each other, and I couldn't get over the fact that he walked away from our kids.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't understand, how could you just leave my babies, our babies, like they were nothing, and yeah, I was gone, but I couldn't help being gone. Like I was, but if I had any chance to be there, I would be there. And that was my weakness. Every time I got out to the halfway house, I would run because my kids, because there's nobody to take care of my kids. And so when I was in there the second time, I had to find again somebody to take care of my kids, because my mom was like, I can't do this. Because that's why I ran from the halfway house. That was another reason why I ran from the halfway house when I got out the first time. Was she called me. She's like, you need to come get your kids. I'm like, I'm in the halfway house. Do you not know what that means? Like, I can't leave, And so I left. I went to take care of my kids, because I'm not going to have my kids where they're not wanted, But behind those walls, when that happened, when I called home to check on them, and she's telling me, you got to find somewhere for them to go. Nobody in my family would take them. And, that hurt. And I called a really good friend of mine, and there was no questions asked. There was no nothing. She's like, tell them to have all of them ready.
She took all of them.
She said, tell her to have all 4 of them ready. I'll be there for them. And she only ended up with 2, but she, like nothing, and she made sure they were there for visits, through both prison, both of my times in prison. Nobody would even take them to see me, and the only time I seen them was during Mom and Kids Day, when they could be dropped off. And that happened quarterly. So every 4 months. So here I am trying to catch up on a whole 4 months in 8 hours, and it was rough. And I feel for women for parents, period, that are in there and don't know where their kids are.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's hard. And that's one pain that I don't wish on anybody. Not knowing. They're out there, but you don't know if they're okay, if they're eating, if they have clothes, And I don't know, the second time when I went back to prison, I was ready for something different, and I trusted the process and did the program and graduated. I stood there in the aftercare program, and I got out, and I had to find a sober living to go to, because I didn't have nowhere to parole to. I had one of my little cousins let me use his address, but you know, he had his family, and his lady was like, I don't want nobody staying with us. And I'm like, cool, I don't even care. Just get me out of here. Mm-hmm. I need to get out of here, you know? And DOC, like 6 months before you're going to be released, they have reentry panels. And they have different community organizations come in on different days and different resources. And I met my case manager there from Empowerment.
Oh, yes.
The Empowerment Program.
Mm-hmm.
And they were signing up people for the Wage Use Program.
Yep.
And somebody had told me who to look for. She's cool. She'll help you. Like, she don't think she's better than, like, her attitude's good. She'll be cool with you. So I went in there, and I'm like, I just remember walking up to her, like, can you help me? Like, they said you could help me. I need help. Like, I need to find somewhere to go with my kids when I get out of here. Because I knew I wasn't going to I knew if I went back to the environment I grew up in, that I wasn't going to succeed. Mm-hmm. You know? Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to have the support. None of it. And so she worked with me. She took housing applications every week. She would bring me a stack, fill them out. I gave her permission to talk on my behalf to all these places.
And you did all that while you were still
While
inside.
I was still in prison. Mm-hmm. And we found a sober living for me to go to. Mm-hmm. And that's when I met Lori when I got out the second time. Okay. But I found a sober living to go to. So my cousin let me use his address. I got out, and there was an organization called No More Locked Doors. Mm-hmm. And she had been incarcerated. She was previously incarcerated, and she would bring backpacks with all the stuff that she wanted while she was in prison, like the hygiene stuff, the good hygiene. Yeah, a toothbrush longer than your pinky, you know. And she would come and get us from prison, pick us up, take us to eat, take us shopping for clothes, and just welcome us back, you know. So none of my family knew I was getting out. I kept it a secret because I figured if they couldn't be here for me at my worst, why am I going to let them have me at my best? Mm-hmm. That was my mindset at the time, because I had so much resentment towards them, you know. And so I got out. She took me to the parole office, and I checked in, and I already had a plan that I was going to just call and switch locations and go to the sober living. And so that's what I did. And I was there for about 6 months, and then COVID hit. And me and my little sister, we had a disagreement, and I told her to just bring my daughter to me, you know. And so she did. She did what I asked her to do, you know. And so I had to leave. Because I didn't have nowhere to keep my daughter. And so throughout that time when I got out at the sober living, that's when I met Lori and my sponsor. Because I left prison with my sponsor. Like, I had a plan. Mm-hmm. Like, I wasn't going to go back, you know. And my sponsor connected me with Lori. And Lori was my mentor the first 6 months when I got out.
What kind of treatment did you go through while you were in prison?
A cognitive behavioral treatment.
Okay. And how did you like that?
I loved it. I loved it.
So when you came out of prison, you were interested in sober living. It wasn't necessarily just something forced on you also? It was something that you did want.
I wanted it. Mm-hmm. I wanted it. I didn't want to go back to the chaos of my family. Me and my mom, I love my mother. She's my queen. but we can't do life together. We're too much alike. And I get really frustrated with her. And so I just keep my distance. But I love her, you know. But yeah, I ended up leaving the sober living, and I had to go back to mom's. I didn't have nowhere to go. I was trying to get into a shelter, but because of COVID, they shut down. We couldn't go in. And so the agreement was, I'm going to stay here until I could get into a shelter, and then I'll take all the kids to the shelter with me. Because my 2 boys were still with my friend. And my mom had kept my baby. I went to prison the first time when my daughter, who's 8 now, was 6 months old. So my parents raised her. My stepfather and my mom raised her from when she was 6 months till she was 6 years old. And trying to rebuild those relationships with my kids when I first got out the first time, when I wasn't ready for it, was really hard, because I was trying to, one thing growing up through my whole life, like I was a people pleaser. Like I had to keep the peace because of how chaotic my household was.
And there were so many of you.
And so I always, and I didn't want to get blamed for everybody all the time, you know? So I always was trying to keep the peace and always trying to fix everything for everybody. And the first time I got out of prison, I found, now I could look back and see where I went wrong. I was trying to fix somebody that didn't want to be fixed. Somebody that didn't want what I wanted, you know? And so I had to, the way that relationship ended is really sad, and but I'm thankful that it ended, because I found somebody that values me. And I don't know, like I found somebody that I value, you know. But yeah, the second time I got out of prison is when I was ready to change. I didn't know how I was going to do it with 4 kids, but I knew I had to do it. And I just utilized all the support in the community. I stood connected to the empowerment program, and I graduated the wages program. And my case manager, she had been telling me since prison, when she met me, like, you should be a peer specialist. And I'm like, what's a peer? Like, what is that, you know? And she's like telling me what a peer specialist is. And I'm like, ain't nobody gonna trust me with people to help them. Like, do you know who you're talking to? You know? And she's like, no, that's why they'll hire you. Like,
that's exactly why.
That's why they want you. And I'm like, nah, because I'm so used to that self-talk, that negative self-talk, talking down on myself.
Yeah.
And so through that, when I left the sober living and went back to my mom's, I was doing good for a minute, and then I quit working at Wendy's and got hired at 7-Eleven graveyards, and I started getting high again. I ran into somebody from my past, and I was thinking that I couldn't provide for my kids with this minimum wage job, you know, and I started selling again. But this time I started selling fentanyl, but I didn't know I was selling fentanyl because fentanyl hit the streets when I was in the joint.
Oh, right.
It hit the streets when I was still in prison. So I'm thinking I'm selling Percocets. I thought I was selling 30s. And people are telling me, you're selling fake pills. What the hell's a fake pill? And then I try them. And then I get stuck. You know? And I lied to my partner at the time. We're still together. But at the time I was lying to him, and he's like, nah, what's going on? You know? I OD'd in my room and nobody knew. My 2 adult sons came and they found me, and they brought me back, you know, and my husband showed up. At the time, he wasn't my husband. We were just seeing each other, but he showed up and he knew something was wrong, like something was off. Everybody was quiet. Nobody was saying anything. He's like, what's going on? Came out, and he didn't approve of it, you know. Mm-hmm. And so slowly I stopped selling. Slowly I found out I was pregnant. By the time I found out I was pregnant, my case manager from Empowerment was still there to support me. She helped me get on methadone and get off of fentanyl. And I have 3 years clean now from fentanyl, man. Yeah. And you know, but some tragic things happened in that time of me finding out I was pregnant and getting clean. And I just realized that I had to either stop what I was doing all the way, or my kids were going to lose me again to DOC. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, with the choices that my husband made, it opened my eyes. And I just realized that I wanted something different. I started doing programs that my case manager was, you know, suggesting that I would do. And so I went to this program, and I ran into one of the girls that I was in prison with. I met her when I was in the county jail. And we reconnected, and she's a big part of why I am where I am, because she believed in me. She seen what I was trying to do with my life, and she shared her knowledge of becoming a peer specialist. She created a curriculum and asked me if I'd be willing to follow the curriculum. And it was going to be hard because I wasn't connected to any nonprofit or to anywhere for them to pay for the trainings. It would all be out of my pocket, mm-hmm. you know. And she's like, but we're going to believe in God. We're going to believe in God. We're going to trust in God. And I'm like, all right, I'm down. Mm-hmm. Let's do this. And so by that time I was living in a transitional housing, because I finally went to a shelter. I went to a shelter and got into a transitional housing and worked on the peer curriculum that whole time I was there, and ended up getting hired at the empowerment program. And so I have been there now for 2 years as a case manager. I'm now certified by the state of Colorado as a peer specialist. That's awesome. A peer and family specialist. I'm a full-time student at MSU.
That's awesome.
I'm going for my bachelor's in science. You know, I still have struggles, but my struggles are different now.
Yeah.
And they're doable. It's not doom and gloom, and my world isn't going to end. You know, there's hope, and I'm helping women that are where I was, and it's like redemption work for me, because I'm not conceited to the point where I'm not conceited at all, but yeah. I'm not, you know, I don't think that I'm above anybody. I remember where I came from. I remember that all it takes is one bad day, one bad argument, one bad something for me to say F it all and just walk away and go back.
I mean, it's a powerful thing to have relapsed and to be where you are. And I think it says a lot, like, for people that are like, I don't know if I can do this, or I'm going to fail at this. You have the ability to tell them, I've failed at this, but also I'm succeeding now. And I think that's one of the only positive ever actually from a relapse is the ability to say, hey, look, I did that. I'm still here. I was able to survive that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there is no positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I give all the credit to, not all the credit, but a lot of the credit to my treatment in TC, because had I not, I was just talking to my best friend about this last night, like, had I not had those skills of knowing, like, okay, you got to get out of this, I probably would, and to ask for help. That was another big thing. I never asked for help because I didn't want nobody throwing nothing in my face.
Right.
And so TC helped me ask for support. And so when I knew that I needed to get clean, I called my case manager and I was like, does that offer still stand? And she's like, yeah, it does. Like, well, I need help. And here I sit now, I work with her now, and life isn't, there's still things in my life that, hurtful things that are difficult to deal with, but I get through them, my significant other, he has a life sentence, and he hasn't had the chance to meet our son in person. He's only knows him over video through a glass. And it's hard, but I truly believe had I not did that time, had I not went through not knowing where my kids were, not being able to see them, I wouldn't be able to support him emotionally. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do now for myself or for anyone else.
Right. Yeah, you can relate. You have the ability to empathize with what he's going through.
Yeah, and for the people that I work with, the people that I serve, like, I get so frustrated sometimes because I'm like, you could do this. Like, you got this. Everything in you, you could do it, and it's just, it's sad. Like, I drive around Denver and I see people that I grew up with, and my heart hurts for them. And that's how I know I've changed, because before I didn't care about anybody. I didn't care about, not even myself. I was okay with being in prison. I was okay with 3 hots in a cot. And so now I just try to lead by example. And for my kids, like, I just try to be what I didn't have. But I have to remember that they're not me. They're not that little girl. And I got to listen to them and figure out what it is they need. So life's good now, though.
Life is good. And what motivates you every day the most, do you think?
My kids.
Your kids.
My kids, my grandkids.
Yeah.
And,
What's the relationship with your kids, having been away from them for 5+ years and dealing with addiction? How do they deal with that with you? The ones that are old enough to understand what you've gone through.
They're just really honest with me, and I let them be honest. I let them tell me how they feel. We still have our ups and downs, but I just like the fact that I'm able to be here for them whenever they need me. Even my adult kids, they're grown with their families and they live on their own, but I'm not strung out. I'm not stuck in the bathroom. I'm not. They know they could come to my house and they're not gonna find me OD'd on the floor. You know.
It'd really be a relief for those two boys that did find you like that too.
Yeah.
And there's no animosity. There's no issues that.
Not for me. I don't know if they if you know they harbor that. They don't tell me. They're really supportive. My older boys are really
That's awesome.
supportive of me.
That's good.
I try to just let them do life, and if they need me, they know I'm here, you know. I don't really try to be the mother-in-law that's all in their mix and telling them how to raise their kids and stuff, like, you know. I just let them live.
How have you managed to stay sober every day? What do you do? So for those of us who, for all of us who work in recovery and who are in this field, I know that everybody has kind of that pathway to recovery. So what is it that you do for your own?
So I still dose. That's a big, that helps me be accountable. Just today I had to go take a UA and have a bottle count. So I think that's connected to, though I'm so used to answering to somebody from being in prison and being on paper. But I still do that, and support and self-care, and just looking at my kids and my grandkids and remembering where I don't put prison too far behind me. I still keep those memories fresh, and those experiences and the heartache, I keep it fresh for a reason. And I do the opposite of what I used to do, even when I don't know, because there's times when, especially as a college student, you know, I dropped out when I was in a freshman in high school. So now I just reach out for support, you know. I utilize whatever support is available to me. And people, you know, some of my clients at the agency, they're like, "You still have a therapist?" I'm like, "Yeah, girl. You think I could help you without one?"
Right.
You know?
We should all have therapists.
I have two. You know? But yeah, my kids are, and my grandkids are my motivation. Yeah.
So Lori's here, and best friends.
Yes, my best friend.
When you met her,
Yeah.
who did you meet when you met her? Where was she when you met her?
She was in a sober living house. Had a baby girl.
What do you see now?
It is a total transformation. This woman is so strong and so courageous. When people say that they can't do it, it's hard for me because that's my best friend, right? So when people come to me and say, "I don't know how I'm going to do this, I can't do this," I'm like, miss me with all that, right? Yes, I'm pretty cutthroat, but she's got 8 kids. She works 2 jobs, you know? She's going to school full time. Like, that's how God made her strong. She's a faithful woman, you know? She's a God-fearing woman. She is so strong, and she overcomes any obstacle thrown at her way. I'm serious. She does. She just does it with grace and kindness, and she shows empathy to everybody and understanding. And it doesn't matter where you're at in life. She'll show you love. I've been on the phone with her at times, and she'll see somebody on the street, pick them up, give them a ride. I'm like, "Where are you going?" "I'm just going to work. They needed a ride. I found them at the bus stop." I'm like, "All right," you know.
Yeah.
But I just see big things happening for Laura because she does not give up, and she is my best friend.
That's awesome.
I think that said it. That's got to be awesome to hear, like, you know, and deserved.
It is. It's uncomfortable sometimes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Because I don't, what I do, you know, my life, I'm not intentional about getting, like, my actions are intentional for the people I'm helping, but I don't do it for praise or for acknowledgement. I do it because I want them to have hope that change is possible. It's not easy. Sure in the hell isn't easy, but you could do it.
That's right.
You know?
Women in recovery here, okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why we brought Lori up. I was like, you can't sit in the back and be another woman in recovery. I'm outnumbered. It's Women in Recovery Day. That's how it's going on today.
Mark your calendars.
That's right. We just made it. All right. So it's in March, whatever day you decided to listen to this. It's today.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say specifically to women suffering an addiction, or maybe somebody that's listening that has a family member that's a woman that's suffering an addiction? Something you want to say to women out there, and men too, but Women Recovery Day.
Yeah. Don't give up. Like, don't give up on what your dreams are. Remember your dreams, and you're valuable. And I know that you're loved. Somebody loves you.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
Valuable.
Yeah. Right.
You're not replaceable. You know? And if you're still using, like, they need you. Somebody needs you. You know?
You're currently working at Empowerment.
The empowerment
The
program.
Empowerment Program. Do you have a contact there that people, if they wanted to reach out to you and learn more?
They could go to our website.
Okay.
Theempowermentprogram.org.
Okay.
On there is a tab that says Get Started. You hit that tab and do the pre-intake form. And if you do it on a Monday, you'll be hearing from me. And but yeah, they'll be connected to a case manager by the second phone call from us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Laura, I want to thank you
Thank you for
for
having
coming
me.
in. Congratulations on
Thank
your
you.
3 years.
Yep.
It's awesome.
3 years, and it'll be 2 months on the 27th.
Yay!
Yeah.
It's very awesome. I'm
Yeah.
very proud of you, and I
Thank
look
you.
forward to watching more time go by.
Yep.
Thank you for coming in and speaking. Mahai, this is Sharing Our Stories. Our guest, Laura Perez from Denver. She works at Empowerment and LDR, and LDR stands for?
Live Different Recovery.
Live Different Recovery.
I
And
volunteer there on Fridays.
Okay. What's their contact information?
So their
And what do they do? And what does Live Different Recovery
So
do?
their recovery program from that was created by the alumni of Cross Purpose.
Okay.
So it's out. So they are based out of Cross Purpose. They meet every Friday night at 3050 Richard Allen Court.
Okay.
We serve the community food, good dinner. It's not something, you know.
Oh, Friday
it's
night dinner and a
Friday
recovery
night
meeting?
dinner.
I like the sound of
And
this.
we have different community organizations come in and do workshops, and it's really good. You can find us on Facebook. Yeah.
You said Live Different.
Live Different Recovery.
All right. Write that down, Mahai, and look that up. You just heard dinner, company, workshops,
And free childcare.
friends, free childcare, and recovery
Yeah.
on a
All the
Friday.
things.
Yeah.
Come on out
extra
for a good
things.
time. Fill your belly and enjoy. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Lori, thank you for coming along with
Thank you
her.
for having me.
Nani Farrell Al Jaleel,
Yes. I love it.
I love you.
I love you.
This is Sharing Our Stories. You can find this program on our Facebook page, as luckily some of you are here right now. Please like, share, subscribe on our Facebook page, on our YouTube page. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. So subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcasting network. And please share this program with somebody who may need it, or a family member who you just want them to learn more about recovery and that, yes, it happens.
Yeah.
You'll find us here every weekend on the radio, Sunday morning, 7 a.m. on Jammin' 101.5 and Flow 107.1 here in Denver. And of course, like I said, worldwide, wherever you find your podcast. Thank you so much to our guests, Laura Perez.
Thank you.
Lori, thank you. Nani, thank you. This is Sharing Our Stories, and we will see you again.